What is up, guys? We're back with another one. Today I'm reviewing Ginger by Brockhampton. So Ginger is the name of hip-hop boy band Brockhampton's 2019 album, which is their follow-up from their 2018 album Iridescence. This is an album that follows on from last year's drama with Amir Van, one of their previous members, being caught with sexual assault charges and voluntarily leaving the group, which in result has affected each member of Brockhampton pretty negatively. Because of this, Ginger is what I believe is the personal conflicts and challenges that each member has had to go through as a result of the situation, as well as the effects on each member from having this new lifestyle and becoming famous. But first of all, the concept on this album is very strong in the sense that each member of the group has their own story and kind of arc that they're following throughout this album. While on Saturation Trilogy, we were introduced to each member and their lifestyles and their backstories and the style that they are bringing to the table. Ginger is an update on each member and their new lifestyle that they're going through. However, this album is how I feel is the growth and maturity that the group has had ever since the Saturation Trilogy, and each member on this group follows the same concept about self-realization, honesty, and maturity. But what makes it different on this album is each member tells us in their own unique ways. The Saturation Trilogy had each member tell their own stories, and while I personally feel like that was really exciting and made overall the album sound consistently incredible and kept you relating to the artists and what they were going through, this concept that they bring on Ginger that each artist follows feels like a more narrowed down and refined version of the Saturation Trilogy. Some of my most notable arcs that came through for me were from Kevin Abstract, where, quoting from himself, he is going through what he describes as this Mary J. Blige moment in his life and his career, where he's been building himself up to get all this fame, but in the end it hasn't actually turned out as great as he imagined it to be. And he is, as a result, feels like going through this hell. And that is very much reflected on this album, as well as how the absence of Amir Van has affected him and his overall headspace when dealing with this newfound fame. Not only was Kevin's story really interesting to me, but so was Don McLennan's and his relationship with Amir Van. Like on the track Dearly Departed, he talks about how Amir Van staged a robbery on his mate, and also how he's been dealing with his depression. But while those arcs were most notable for me, each member brought in a really interesting story and arc and it all was very personal and left me wondering where the group will go next. Second of all, the delivery on this album is really versatile and each member brings something different or interesting on each track. Most of these deliveries are to help with the ideas that each member brings on each track. Like with Kevin Abstract, on a lot of tracks he comes in with a low groaning, kind of mumbly delivery to reflect how kind of tired he sounds with just overall his situation. Or with Merlin Wood on No Halo, bringing in this kind of Kid Cudi inspired melody to his verse that was really refreshing to hear from him. Then on later tracks, coming in with even more energy to pick yourself up, like on the track St. Percy. My favorite collective deliveries on a single track on this album was definitely on Dearly Departed, where each member kind of sounds like they're holding a different emotion with whatever they're saying. And the overall track just sounds so tragic and it stands out in my books. I really enjoyed Joba. He definitely brought a lot of versatility on this album and kept testing himself with different styles and was always bringing something new on each track. And of course Bareface was awesome, his voice is just awesome on each track. But then surprisingly on a lot of tracks like Boy Bye, he comes in with a rapping kind of style, and it actually surprisingly kept me hooked on the whole track. And they were very short but sweet moments, but kept the whole tracks sounding a lot more entertaining for me. Sometimes for me personally, deliveries that some members bring on certain tracks can be a bit out of the blue or not really fitting, but that's a bit of a nitpick, and really I enjoyed most of the deliveries throughout this whole album. They really refined and brought in a lot of ideas with these deliveries. Third of all, the sound on this album is really dark and depressing, which I feel like the group hasn't really done in this way before. Ever since my first reaction, link in the description below, this sound, because of it being so different and so refined, actually took me quite a bit of time to get used to because it was so different. And the album moves so many different areas because of this. There's not many moments on this album where I felt I was bored or like the album was stalling. And I give the production on this album a lot of credit on that. Every producer that was involved on this album brought in a lot of different ideas that really complemented what the artists were putting out, and successfully managed to keep this production within this whole depressing vibe that they had going on. They managed to test themselves with different genres of hip-hop, such as a lot of incorporation of hardcore hip-hop to conscious hip-hop, to a lot of experimental hip-hop and a bit of pop here and there, and a lot of R&B tracks that I personally feel like sounded a lot more developed than their previous R&B tracks. And with playing and experimenting with these different sounds, it does keep that whole album moving in a certain direction, such as like the little things such like a beat switch to change the mood of a song, like on If You Pray Right, or with the really nice transitions they put in throughout between the tracks, so the album doesn't feel like it's halting. I personally feel like the one track that kind of got in the way for me was Love Me For Life. I thought it was a little bit out of place within these tracks that they've had previously. But even then, that's my personal opinion, and overall, the production on this album was so good, and you can clearly see it has matured a lot over the past couple of years. I also thought the couple of features on this album were really good as well. I didn't expect on the first listen Slow Tie coming in on the track Heaven Belongs To You, and he didn't disappoint in fitting in with the Brockhampton style. Hopefully they do more tracks in the future because they actually worked really well together. And I also thought Deb Never on the chorus of No Halo brought in a really chilling and nice aesthetic to the whole track. It was incredibly fitting and set this haunting vibe for the rest of the album. And I thought it was really refreshing hearing a woman artist on a Brockhampton track. It brought a whole new element to the track, and she did a great job fitting in with it. So these two features I give a lot of props to. But overall, I really enjoyed this album. I'm gonna be honest, in my opinion, it's the type of album that takes a couple of listens to really get used to and really get a hold of the ideas and what they were going for. But whenever I listen to this album, I feel like this is the group coming back to form. And I feel like, in my personal opinion, this is the true sequel to the Saturation trilogy. For me, this is Brockhampton's most mature and developed album in their whole discography. Refined and developed as it is, it stands out as its own thing. I still personally feel like the Saturation trilogy is more enjoyable for me because I always keep coming back to it, and it had a certain magic to it. And the immaturity that they had was really special for me. But Ginger does successfully play as its own album, and I completely understand why some fans would like Ginger more than the Saturation albums. This album is mature, emotional, but really self-reflective, and reflected the depressing vibe that the group must have been going through for the past year. So ultimately, I wonder where this group will be going next, and I hope that the group makes it to a much better place in the process. I overall give this album an 8.5 out of 10. I highly recommend you listen to this album, and also let's give the Saturation trilogy a listen as well, just so you can get more of a vibe to what this album's trying to do and really see the difference in the development of their music. But yeah, that's the video. Thanks for watching, guys. Hit a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Leave a comment on what you think of this album as well. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day and peace.